Play it cool.
And there we are again. Hey guys, good to be back. Sorry about the short delay there. Restarting the streaming software definitely did the trick here. So again, I'm not sure what went wrong, but rebooting it is always the way to go. So I'd like to thank you all for hanging in there and staying with me, and I'm going to jump into a real game right now. So I pointed out all the races before. They all got very nice racial art, especially once you meet them in game. They're really nicely animated. Thank you for the confirmation there. It's good to know that you can all see it. And like I said, I'm a big fan of the pull-up symbiosis. They're a really nice race to look at. I like the greenish and the plant-like pacifism they spread while actually conquering the galaxy is always a nice way to go, I think. So one thing I'd like to do though, I want to customize my race a bit, and that's something you can do here in this game. So by default, the polyps are fertile, which gives them a higher population growth. They are timid warriors, which makes them weaker in melee combat. Or in ground combat, I should say. And in addition, they are adept spies, which I'm not too much a fan of, so I'm going to remove that one. And they do photosynthesis, so they don't require as much food because basically they live off the oxygen and the light. And I'm going to customize that. So I'm going to remove the adept spies trait, and that's going to free up 3 points that I can spend somewhere else. So I can instead boost some other part of my guys here. So one of the things I can do is I can make them better engineers, for example, which would give my a 25% bonus to ship hit points, which is a pretty nice thing to do. Another thing I could do is make us better traders, get us a high G homeworld or high gravity homeworld. But what I'm going to do right here is I'm going to make us smarter. And by making us smarter, obviously, we'll be researching different techs pretty fast. So there are a couple of others on page 2 as well, which is the newcomer one is especially interesting. If you've played the game for quite a bit and you want to shake things up, try the newcomer trait. It frees up a lot of points you can spend on buffs, but it means that you start very small, whereas the rest are a sort of minor established empire already. So we're going to hit continue. We like the way we have customized our race here. Note that you can also save different presets yourself if you want to quickly get back to them. We're not going to do that right now. I'm going to hit continue and we come to the generation. So the polyps don't just need sunshine, they still need some food, but they eat a lot less than the others, about half. So here we can set up our game. We can choose our name, in which case I'm going to stay with Surtur. And our empire color is green by default, which makes a lot of sense for polyps, obviously. And an awesome question being raised here. If vegetable eats vegetable, is it still veganism? I am not sure. I wouldn't know. So now we need to set our opponents. I think I'm going to go with 4 opponents. I want to get a fairly small game going so we get to see a bit more action early on. I'm going to keep the difficulty at default, and I'm going to leave our empire name and our race name by default. But you can customize those as well, so you can really get into role-playing as well, if that's your thing. I'm going to do a bit of a smaller map. One of the differences with the DLC is that you can make the map all the way up to 200 systems, which is really, really huge, or epic. It's really a map of epic proportions. We're not going to do that right now. In fact, I'm going to make it fairly small. Really about... Default is about between like 50 and 100 star systems. That will be most of the time you want to play something like that. But of course you can really change it up. In this case I'm going to go for about 50. Let's make it 51, that's fine. And that means that there are about 10 stars per race available. So then we get to set the galactic fertility, which means how many planets there will be that will allow for farming. You can make it boost it really a lot, making it ultra fertile, or you can just make it ultra rare, give more of a realistic feel to it, meaning that very few planets will have proper atmosphere to support farming, etc. In this case, we're going to leave it as classic. You can do the same for richness, which means like how efficient workers will be able to do their work. So more minerals, etc. And then we can set the threat level. Hey Zero Sum Games, glad to see you here. I definitely agree that the guy who makes this is very cool. Any gameplay tips, etc. you might have are more than welcome. The same goes for the rest of the viewers, obviously. I'd like to thank you all for being here, and please drop a note in the chat. Then hostile threats we're going to keep as normal, and we're going to get the default game length. I disabled the attacks for now, so we can do a bit more slow game from that perspective, and focus a bit more on explaining some of the mechanics. And we're going to have all the different victories on as well, which is also a new feature from Sector 0. So we're going to start right here. So we get a nice little lore to it, and then we start. So if you own StarDrive 2 and you played StarDrive 2 but you've never seen Sector 0, the first thing that you'll see here are the sectors, all the hexagons that are covered with the map. So that's a very big change that really changed a lot of gameplay as well. It is not just cosmetic in any way. So these sectors can be controlled by one empire at a time only. So once you control a bit of it, you control the entire sector. And over the course of the game, you will find empires fighting for these different sectors. So here we start at our capital of Sporl. We can actually rename this. We start with a couple of ships, and you can see that this is a fairly small map, but you can see already there's quite a lot to discover and to find about. So not only the stars offer obviously some things to discover, like planets, etc., asteroid belts, but outside of those empty sectors don't have to be empty in any way. So you can basically go ahead and scout wherever you like, and you will find a lot of stuff there. So we're going to zoom in again, and I think watching Zero Sum is watching a stream of his own game here, which must feel magical in some way. In the other way, of course, he must feel frustrated because no one will be able to showcase the game as good as he does himself. So let's have a look at our planet over here and go over the planetary basics. So we got the planet name, which we can actually change should we want to. We got some basic information. It's a medium-sized planet. It's a Terran planet, which means that we can be farming here, and in addition, it has abundant materials, so it's fairly good for production, and it has a normal gravity, which dictates a couple of things. Amongst other things, it's the upkeep for buildings. Obviously, it costs more maintenance to have buildings standing when there's a lot of gravity pulling them down. So we got our population here spread over different areas. So we got a part of the population is farming, part of them is working, and part of them is researching. So one of the things we can do is we can actually move about these populations and alter the way what they do. We can also automate it by using one of the pre-planned governors, essentially, that will take control of the planet. In this case, I'm going to move some to production, as we need to produce quite a bit. In addition, we can see some ground forces here. They're actually defending the planet. We're not going to do too much with those, but in the course of the game we can upgrade them and expand them. And here we can see actually the planet. So we can see the planet is currently pretty empty. We have an infantry base there, obviously, which houses these units, and we have a star base there, which allows us to build some of the bigger ships. But aside from that, there's a whole lot of empty space, and we can start building stuff right now. So for more buildings, we probably have to research quite a bit, but we can start building up some new ships already. So at the start, we can build colony ships, freighters, construction ships, and a number of fighting vessels. Let's get some freighters in the air in case we need to colonize a planet without any food. So I've ordered the construction of one freighter, and I'm going to leave the map thing again. Actually, it's very useful here is right click leaves every screen and brings you back to the galactic view. It's really nice. So generally you press left click to enter submenus and right click to leave them again. So it's very quick, very easy. So let's inspect our fleet here. We got two ships of the pull-up fleet. We got the colony ship and we got a combat vessel, which is actually our exploration frigate. So we're going to select this exploration frigate and we're going to set it searching for new planets to find. We already found one star, which is right next to us, which actually has a couple of potential planets there. They're nothing great. This might be interesting as it has a decent population size and nice production per worker, so that could be interesting as a production planet, but so far it's not ideal. So we're going to send our explorer out there, and as the game is turn-based, it will move as we turn. And actually, I'm just going to explore with our colony ship as well, because honestly, there's not a whole lot else to do. So the exploration ship, contrary to the colony ship, is actually got some sensors on there, so it can actually look into sectors with sector away from it. It doesn't have to enter the sector completely, so they're quite good for exploration. Next, we need to set up our early research, and I'm not sure if you guys are familiar with the research system right here. Basically, there are these different categories, and for all these categories you got a nice tree, and from each level within that tree you get to pick one research. So what that means is, if we want to research some of the off-world industry, we can either pick the automated rover bay or the xenomine, but we can't do both. So there are some interesting choices to make immediately. In this case, I want to get my farming up as quickly as possible so I can colonize some of those less appropriate planets, essentially. And aeroponic farm is quite good for that, because it just provides a +3 flat food bonus to there. So I'm going to select that for research, and it'll take about 14 turns. I'm going to right click again to go out of the menu, and I think that for now I'm quite done with what I should be doing, so I'm going to hit end turn. I can do that by clicking the turn button or just by holding the spacebar, and already we can see that our scout found something interesting on the planet there. Actually, it's found a planet that's not just habitable, but is being habited. And there seems to be an unexplored anomaly there. So we should probably go there and make contact. And you'll find a lot of these things in the game. There's so much to explore and to see, and you actually meet some very colorful characters along the way. So aside from that, we're just going to go. You can even, what I did right there, just hold spacebar for a couple of turns and it will just progress them very quickly right away. So you don't have to hit the end turn every time again. It's a very smooth ride, really. And that's the core of the entire interface. That it's all smooth, it's all quick, and it's no hassle. So you're trying to, are you trying to interact with the inhabitants of this planet or attack this planet? Let's interact first. Let's see what they got to offer before we decide whether or not to kill them. So they're saying, welcome to our new home. Now before you we can allow you to land your spacecraft, there's a matter of a few forms to fill out. Okay, that sounds great. There's a registered entity here. Oh gosh. So an entire an entire planet full of lawyers. Now that's going to be one exciting planet to live on. Don't get worried, you probably won't get sued too many times on your first trip here. Okay, I'm a bit scared already. So there are a couple of things we can do right here. So we can actually read some of these forms there that we need to familiarize ourselves in order to operate on the planet. We can request a lawyer, which might be a good way to go. It might be a safe choice. Or we can raise an objection, which, you know, they're lawyers. They will get that. So let's, or you just can leave quickly and get the hell out of there, essentially. In this case, I'm going to see if I can raise an objection and see if that brings anything good to the table. You yell loudly objection, and your workers on the spaceport all stop what they're doing to look at you intently. I'm overruled. Okay, I'm overruled. I'm afraid. I don't want to get sued. I'm going to leave here quickly and continue my exploration. But I am going to prepare a fleet to exterminate these guys and take the planet for myself, because honestly, well, it's not the biggest planet out there. It's quite nice. Plus, I don't really like those guys. Sorry to all the lawyers watching right now. So we find a good couple of planets here as well, actually. This one has some ancient mines on there and has very good production value. In addition to, it supports a decent population of 5. So that might be a very interesting option as a first colony. In addition to the ancient mines, it has some helium in there, and the exploitation, if we gain 4 or more of these helium, we get actually a plus 25 damage with beam weapons, so that's very good. So it won't bring us instant bonus because we need to find 3 other planets with this helium, but that is very interesting indeed. Before we can do that, however, because this doesn't support any farms and we don't have our aeroponic farms researched yet, we need to wait until our freighters are complete before we can colonize it, because otherwise they'll be without food. Luckily, our freighter fleet is ready in 1 turn, so let's actually just go ahead and start colonizing. In the meantime, guys, in the chat, if you have any questions, just drop them in the chat right here. We'll see if I can answer them. Perhaps Dan can pick up a couple as well. And if you see I'm making mistakes, be it tactically or strategically, just drop a line in there as well. I'm sure there are a couple of guys out there that played a hell of a lot more than I did so far. So any help here is more than welcome, for it will not only help me, but all the viewers here as well. So we can colonize the planet. We're going to do that right now. Oop, and we get our first intergalactic news network broadcast. So you'll see these coming up throughout your game, and they'll be explaining about the, what's happening basically, and they'll be introducing the different races. So we know you like the pull-up symbiosis. Which do you dislike the most? Well, that's a tricky one. I really like probably a lot. I really appreciated the dry locks initially until I saw them for what they really are. We might see that later on. That's quite a bit scary. I also really like the owls before I started playing, until I saw that someone was controlling them. So I think those are the ones I find I like the least, essentially. I just want to free all those owls. You can actually encounter some freed owls in the game and hire them as heroes. So that's really cool, and that's really awesome by Dan that he allowed us to do that. So we got our population over here. He's working obviously because farming's not allowed. So far we can decide to build something and give him something to do. So actually we need to get a starbase up and running at some point, I suppose. That might be an interesting one. It will take a significant amount of turns initially because we have only one guy working on it. But getting the extra starbase doesn't only mean that you can start building ships there. It also means that you can actually have a higher proportion, or you can control a bigger number of fleets. So here we can see starvation there because there's not enough food. But soon we have some freighters available. So from the next couple of turns they should be moving in and get some food. So there's some anomaly here which we need to investigate. A black hole. I hope nothing dangerous comes out of there, because that means we'd be screwed. Yeah, the pull-up spy is a plant pot. You can just hide in there and act neutral. So we got our freighter fleet complete, so let's start doing that. You have food shortage and people will die if it's not addressed. Yes. That should be addressed shortly. Let's see. We can also actually ship some units around if we want to, which is quite nice as well, but we're not going to do that right now. But it looks like none of our freighters are actually moving there. Why aren't they? You're producing trade goods. I want you guys to build something else. One of the other things is that with these sectors you can actually secure some of these sectors even if there's no planet or something in there by building a station there, and I'm just ordered a construction ship to showcase that new feature. So our scout has arrived, and I'm going to set my scout to the black hole and investigate there. Was there anything interesting here? Gas giant, and a not really useful planet. A nice asteroid belt though, but a high maintenance penalty. So we can actually see our freighter here now moving food to the new planet, so it's no longer starving, so that's definitely a good thing. In the meantime, our research was complete, so we can start building some farms out there. So let's select the spore again, and we're going to queue the farm next to it. So if we build the farm there, that means we can free up more farmers and get them to work on other stuff. Ah, that's a very good point, actually. Thank Nicholas. I wasn't producing any excess food for the guys to send out. Thank you. So we need to set a new research, and I think I want to upgrade my economy. So I'm gonna set it to I think the +5 flat production works well if you have a lot of small planets. If you're focusing on a couple of bigger planets, +3 production per worker is more worth it, so I think we're gonna go for that one. I'm always afraid when I face the remnants for the first time. I meet them usually when I'm not at all ready to meet them, and I get my ass kicked in the first couple of battles. So we found another anomaly actually here, so that's something we can explore. And so we're again progressing time fairly quickly. We can see our xenomine research going really well, and we got our construction ship finished. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select it, and I'm going to send it out somewhere to make a station, to build a station. I'm not sure if we can send it here. See if we can do something with that black hole. That might be interesting. So there are a couple of different stations you can build. So the first is a generic station that lets you just take control of the area, but on top of that you can build shipyards, listening posts, all that kind of stuff to fortify your position. And here we can hire a hero, so every now and then you'll find that heroes appear that you can hire, and you can let them control colonies or fleets and use them to your advantage. In this case he gives a plus 40% on labor, which is quite nice, but he costs over 3 billion credits per turn. I'm only making plus 6 at the moment, so that would essentially be half my budget for it. So I think he's a bit too expensive. You got them a bit cheaper as well, so perhaps I should go for a smaller hero to start with. So I'm going to reject him, and he wouldn't like that, obviously. Why would you reject the wisdom of the eons? Yep, we're going to do that. We know better. So you actually got some time to think about it and to hide from it, but can we... We're going to continue again, and this planet seems to be growing, is it yet? Right, so we're slowly growing here as well, so we get plus 0.6 every turn, and once this goes growing, we get more population here to start building, and actually also do some research at some point. So after this one is finished, we need to build a farm here so it can be self-sufficient, at least for the most time to come. A plus 3 on farming is very good for us because we only use half a food per population. That means we can actually support the full planet of a full population of 5 here easily. We get another news message. So we're talking about the United Federation. They're quite a presumptive race for race of space apes. Okay. So you learn about all these races every time you play the game, so that's pretty good, especially in the first couple of times you learn what kind of people are they. In addition, you can actually tweak them as well. So if you want, say you want to face the Drylocks but want to have them behave as if they were polyps, you can actually give them the polyp traits yourself. You can customize your enemy in as much detail as you can customize yourself, so that's really nice. And we research our xenomine. We're looking here. So here, for example, I can start building a station. I'm not sure it makes a lot of sense to build it here, but let's just, for showcasing the feature, might be a good thing to do. So we need to select another research. So we got the mines coming in right now as well, so we can really increase our production. So now it's kind of time to increase our research as well. So let's design the research lab, and we can start really building up our empire here. So one of the things, because I turned off the neutral attacks, you don't have to focus on combat as quickly as you otherwise would, but still, when exploring, you'll find a lot of hostiles out there. So it's no neutrals to fight at all. We're gonna send back our exploration fleet. Actually, let it refuel a bit because it's almost out of fuel. When a ship gets out of fuel, it essentially goes into stasis, and then it returns to the closest planet, but you can't control it on the way, and it moves very slowly, so it's easy to pick off for any potential enemy. So we got our construction ship. He's going to build a supply station right here. The construction of the farm has been completed on Sporl, so that's very good. So we can give them a new order. And now we need to increase our mine as well. And now we got a plus 7 here, which is obviously way more than we need. We still need a plus 1 to move food out to the other planet, but we can focus a lot more on production. Actually, I'm gonna boost my research a bit as well. So it'll take another 15 turns for the mine. In the meantime, the population at Spur is actually still growing, so that's very good as well. We can even move population about if you got the freighters to spare. So we build a station right here, and we can actually upgrade it with several things. So we can build a science station from it, and that will allow the research on the stellar phenomenon found here, so on the black hole. So that was a very good option. We have, so our construction ship has done its job, very good. And let's see how production is going here. We still need about 20 turns, and here we need about 11. And our scout ship has been refueled, and we can send it out again and research our research lab. So in the meantime, we need to see what kind of fighting we'll be doing. Let's focus on some defensive flares, plasma fuel cells. That might be interesting. Let's select the plasma fuel cells from there. I'd like to be focusing this game on carriers, actually. I really like fighting with carriers, and seeing all these fighters going from it. It just looks so cool. So that's what I'm going to be doing here. So we got the construction of our research station here right now, so that's very good. A listening post, actually, what it does is it lets you look at a range of 2 sectors, and so it will allow you to spy on your enemies, essentially, if you're close to them. And the star base is very good as well, as it is a militarized zone. It will help in the defense of the area, so that's very good as well. One of the changes also in the base game, the ships all had other fleets had an area of control, essentially a sphere of influence. Within that they would join combat. In this case, it's everyone within the sector joins the battle. So yeah, Korathi versus Volfar. I definitely prefer the Korathi. I think the world needs more Space Samurai. So research going very well. Obviously, we've chosen the smart perks, so we're progressing through that quite quickly. Let's get ion beams. They'll help the fighters go. And the fighter bay we need. Let's do the fighter bay first. So that's all going quite well. We haven't seen anyone else, so we need to send our scout out again. So let's see, what should it be? Oh, go and refuel. What should it be doing? So let's investigate the anomaly right here and move it up. We can also send our construction ship to do a bit of scouting, actually. And we have a new potential hero to hire, and he's a master of seas. Offers to join us, and he's a shield master and an aquatic leader. I don't think we have any aquatic. We get provides half of his or her normal bonus to Gaia and Terran worlds. That might be interesting. Well, we're going to reject him for now. We're going to wait for another one. He's not cool that we don't dig the ocean. We're plants, we like water, but we don't like to be surrounded by it all the time, because we can actually drown. At least I think that the polyps, Zero-Sum should correct me if I'm wrong here, but I think the polyps are land-based plants. So we got some new galactic news right here. Let's see who they're going to talk today. Some racial profiling, and it's going to be the Korathi Shogunate. So they're a mighty race of warriors who value strength and honor above all. And they say, we seek to master ourselves by mastering whatever dangers and challenges await us in this galaxy. We will find honor and glory among the stars. Very good. So that gives us some idea of them, and we'll encounter them at some point. And we found a nice box of giving us some extra science per scientist for the next 25 turns, so that's really great news. In addition, we found something else here. We found some pirates guarding a huge world that we kind of want, because, well, basically because it's huge. So we should be building a new colony ship, and we should build a fleet to deal with those pirates. So before we do that, we probably want to research a fighter bay. So, but after that, I think we're gonna build some carriers and kick some pirate ass, or at least try to. Let's divert our scout to the surrounding systems for now. We can still see the freighters moving to the planet here to supply it with food, but it's going quite well, and we're currently starting to build our farm, which will take only about 8 turns, and after that they should be self-sufficient, so that goes very well. Also, we're getting a nice research bonus from this over here, so that's quite good. So research goes quite fast. We only have 1 more turn for a fighter bay to research. We found another anomaly. Our scout's doing a great job here. There's so much exploration going on. So we got our fighter bay, which is really good, and let's use that then to jump into some ship design. So we're going to go to the shipyard, and we currently have 3 hulls available that we can use. So we got the corvette, which is very tiny. We got the frigate, which actually you can mount quite a couple of weapons on there, and we got the cruiser, which we want to use because we need all the space for our fighters, and we're going to try and go to the extreme, maximizing fighters and limiting the amount of troops. So my favorite weapon, actually, if I'm being honest, are the carriers. If you count those. Other than that, I think artillery is really cool to have in game. The way they fight at these long ranges, just shooting at swarms of enemies and trying to lower their health as much as possible. Altogether, I really like setting up big ships with lots of broadside capabilities. So let's first thing, so if you're new here to this type of ship design, we got this grid, and this grid is where we can place our modules on. So these yellow grids are mainly for engines. They're the only place engine can be placed, and the blue ones are generally where you place your weapons and utilities, and the gray ones are the all-purpose ones where you generally build your command center or your bridge or cockpit, etc. So let's start by doing the engines. So I'm just going to supply it fully with engines, I think. So we need a bit smaller engines, so the large ones we can use. I think I'm going to use 2 large engines. They don't have to be all that fast, actually, so we don't want to overstock on engines. And then we need a lot of carriers. It is a bit risky to do it like this, but having so many fighters out there is just cool. We can also make them armored if we want to, in which case they'll be heavier, obviously, cost more, but they won't be destroyed as quickly. That might actually be an interesting option. Let's build the armored ones right here. And then we need some defense against fighters, obviously, so we do need some flak cannons. I'm gonna have some flak cannons facing the different directions. Just 2 at the front, and these flak cannons need some ordnance, so they need something to shoot. So you actually need to bring your ordnance with you, your munitions, your bullets. That will allow them to shoot. The flak cannons don't use a whole lot, so just these will give it something to shoot with until it has to resupply. Next, we need to give it a command, and that will give us a command point reduction and better sensor range, so that's definitely a way to go. And obviously we need to power it. We're currently minus 175 in power, and we need to have at least 0. So adding these big power plants will give you a plus 50. And also we need to be able to actually take the fight to the enemy, so what we also need are some fuel cells. Set these at the rear. So the rear is very, very dangerous. If they come behind it, we don't have any protection there. And we can put a sensor on there. I don't really think that is needed. They don't have to be scouts per se. We could attach some nuclear bombs on there, because that will allow them to bombard planets, which also means that we can use this ship type to take the planet with all the lawyers and bomb that to pieces. So we're going to drop it right there. And I think we're complete mostly. We can use some extra space, but right now the ship is kind of cheap and I want to keep it that way and just get those fighters out there as many as possible, as quickly as possible. This ship, I'm not adding any armor to it. You can actually do that if you want, right? There is the defense. In this case, we only have one type of armor, but you'll have more types later on if you research more. But we're not going into direct combat with these ships. At least that's the plan. We're going to let the fighters take care of it while these try and evade and try and go from combat. So we're going to set their behavior to keep moving. And target frontal, that's fine actually, but just keep moving indeed. We can change the patterns a bit if we want to. Kind of like in black. And we're going to enter a name. So guys, what should we do? Let's call this our carrier. So this is a cruiser carrier, so it's a big carrier, so it's a carrier. CV, and let's call it the, what's a nice plant? Well, I'm Dutch, so I'm gonna call it the Tulip class. It's a nice polyp, and we're gonna hit save. And our design has been saved, and we can start building this right now. So I'm going all the way back here, and now I can select my my main planet, which currently is not building anything, so that's good. And we can actually start building some of our carriers. You can also order them to build very quickly if you have enough cash available. You can rush it. At this point, it will cost us 940 billion credits, and we don't have nearly that amount, so we can't do that. But if you are in a hurry and the enemy is coming at you, you might want to do that. So it takes a good couple of turns to build one of them, so it'll take some time, but I think it's a good investment as it will allow us to take out the pirates here and take that planet. We need to select a new research. So I'm going to select the iron beams, and the reason for that is that the iron beams also upgrade our fighters, and since we're focusing so heavily on fighters, I think that's the way to go. And we found a drifting vessel. Let's see, we can enlist them and use settlers, or... wow. We get an extra approval bonus. I think we want to get the settlers. I don't think us polyps are that violent to start eating the first aliens we encounter. So that means we actually got ourselves a colony ship, and I think I'm going to use it to colonize this one over here right now and start making that a nice planet for us. So we get a bit of an extra production base going. We got the extra freighter available to feed the people as long as needed, and also the farm here is almost ready, so that shouldn't be an issue. And our exploration, we're gonna go that way. Let's see what our guy here found. He found an ultra rich world, which is quite good, but with high gravity. It could be interesting later on, really. Let's continue the search. And that's what the game's all about, slowly expanding and getting bigger, meeting your enemies and start fighting them. And eventually you get some really big battles out there with late game technology where you'll fit like dozens of guns on there. And actually our scout has been intercepted by some pirates, and I'm gonna hit auto here because honestly there's not really anything I can do. I can't withdraw, so we're gonna auto resolve this one and lose our fighter. The good news is we researched iron beams, so that's at least something. And let's continue that with the fusion beam and just go fighters all the way, although this will take a significant amount of turns. How about orbital habitat? That's 2 max population. Or the orbital shipyard. Let's go for the orbital shipyard technology. The construction of the aeroponic farm has been completed, so this thing is now, or this planet is now completely self-sufficient. And let's continue and build a research lab on there. Or do we want to continue and build some ships? That might be the way to go as well. Let's start building an extra colony ship when we kick out those pirates. Should be going here. And where's... oh yeah, so we lost our scout. What did you guys find? An uninhabitable gas planet. Okay, so there's not a whole lot we can do with that. Ah, we found a new friend. While exploring this sector, your fleet encountered a docile crystallite entity traveling alone. It doesn't seem to be hostile at all. Oh, you can be welcome. Or we can turn it into jewelry. Well, the money is quite interesting, but I think it's cooler to have this extra ship in our fleet right now. So let's send it back, and we're going to use it to fight some pirates. We found some nice space junk. It's a debris field. Lowering ship speeds. I like the game, but I'm waiting on Stellaris. Well, yes, I think Stellaris is definitely a game with potential out there. Though it's quite different from this one, to be honest. I think it's much more in line with the other Paradox Grand Strategy titles. Whereas this one is more closer to the Masters of Orion type of games. Also, what I really appreciate about this one compared to other 4X games out there, and obviously here at Iceberg, we know our 4X games, but it's the sheer amount of flavor that Dan, or Zero Sum Games, has managed to put into it. So yeah, we're confirming this one. And we got a hero we can hire, a battle master, and an environmental leader. Now that's something that we can relate to, so let's hire that guy. Thank you, Urson. You're welcome to join us. So first we're going to build a farm here as well to be self-sufficient. This is it truly is a very good year for 4X games. And we got another news episode coming right here. More racial profiling. How politically correct. So, the genocidal space wolf bat things. Yeah, these aren't the guys you want to meet. But we are building up our military right now, so we actually got one ship that we found. Your ship has run out of fuel, it's moving to the closest friendly planet, that's fine. Unfortunately, the same house for our construction ship, who has to go all the way around. But our CV Tulip class, our carrier, has been completed. So our first one. Second one is quite there at all. But we are exceeding our command point limit, and this is something I should have been wary of. So that actually means that we need to start building a starbase here as well, once we finish the farm. So this one's resupply, I'm going to merge it. But I think I'm going to see if I can battle the pirates already, because actually we're running out of time quite rapidly, and I'd like to show off at least some combat here. And we can see also slowly our realm of influence expanding as we grow bigger. So more and more planets will turn green. We researched the orbital shipyard. We can research something else right now. Probably research some imperial ambitions actually. How about an imperial bank to get us some extra cash? Right here we don't need as much food, I think. Well, we kind of do. But we're approaching the pirates right here, so we can see if we can get some combat going. They're facing us and found us. There we go, we got our first battle. So it looks like they're a bit tougher than we are when it comes to relative firepower and defense. So it might be a tricky battle, but I just want to show you at least some combat before I'm forced to call it a day right here. So let's fight this one, and let's see how our carrier performs. So let's see, we got our crystalline entity right here, and we have our tulip class right here. I'm going to keep our tulip class at the back. I'm going to send this guy forward together with our ships, and let's see, we should probably get one bigger ship, two smaller ones. I think I'm going to target the smaller ones first and get the junk field raiders out of the way before we go at the Corsair carrier. On the other hand, the carrier might be weak itself, so that might be a tricky... Now let's go for the smaller one first. So I'm going to hit begin. I'm going to launch all my fighters. I'm going to start targeting the enemy, especially with my fighters. So I'd like to think we have fighter superiority. I mean, you can see the amount of fighters here. I really like the detail in the ships and the way the units behave in combat. So the carrier is much faster than the other ships are. Or actually, it looks like they got shield protection. We don't have that research quite yet, so we need to drain their shields before we can do any damage. And unfortunately, their raiders got some pretty decent guns against us, so I need to bring in my carrier anyway for the extra firepower. Also because my carrier has those flak guns that might help out a bit against these lighter ships. We haven't penetrated the shields yet, and I hope we do soon, because otherwise we're screwed. And obviously this is a very small engagement, right? You will see many more out there. It seems like we've finally managed to penetrate the shield. I'm going to use the power 2 engine right here to get some extra speed going and move out of these endless circle. Going to move up. So our fighters are almost down, and our crystallite is down as well, so it doesn't look like we'll be winning this one. I would like to take out the carrier though, but it seems to be too strong as well, as unfortunately these raiders had a good bunch of anti-air units with them. So here we can see our first battle not going too well, which makes sense to be honest for first empire going into space. And trying to evade. So the AI does itself trying to evade, trying to set up different formations. But obviously it's not really working here. We did damage the enemy quite a bit, but their shield technology was too powerful for us. So we went at it a bit too soon. But it was a good moment to show you some gameplay. We can also see some commendations, so you can actually follow your ships as they continue and as they get more medals for special occasions and get more bonuses from that as well. So you can hit the retreat button, yes. In this case though, I wanted to show off the battles themselves. Take it down with you. Could have saved those lives. Well, if they died in combat, that's the most honorable death you can wish for in our empire. We don't need anyone that runs away from a battle. Let that be an example. You either win or you'll die trying. So the good thing is that these pirates don't obviously threaten us directly. And the other good news is that we have a new carrier vessel, Tulip class, on their way. Even though it didn't prove too effective yet, we probably need to upgrade our fighters even more. So that's what we're going to end it on actually today. So I'm going to save this game right now. Unfortunately, we're running out of time quite rapidly. So I'm going to call this a Twitch stream. And if we ever go live again, we might actually be able to continue this one if you're interested in that. So let us know about that. And in the meantime, this was one of our, actually our second stream with the new streaming format we're doing. So if you have any feedback on that, please drop us a line here. If you have any feedback on me personally, drop us a line as well. And of course, hit that follow button so you'll be able to get a notification anytime we go live again. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and hopefully we'll see you again next time. And yes, of course, Emperor, we'll be saving this video and we'll be able to let you rewatch it, and I'll probably get it on YouTube as well. Alright, thanks everybody for watching. We'll see you again next time. Cheers.